Hey, hey, what's up? What's up? Today we're talking money with our friend Jen Patterson Biz. I'm just trying to get my lighting um, going. Looks weird because my light went out and I don't have another one. Hey, okay, she's on. All right, I'm going to invite you. Hold on. Let's see. Collaborator? Yeah. Wait, that's request to join. Hold on. Um, okay. Yay, she's on. Coming on. We're just going to not have any light. All right, so Jen is coming on. I don't like that light either. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're just going to use this light. Waving, waving. Okay, can everyone hear me? I brought my other... Okay. I think I... Did I add you? Yes. What is going on? The time. Invited to join. There she is. I don't know.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Jen. Welcome, welcome. I don't know why I do the collab thing and it doesn't take. And then thank you for
No
requesting to be
worries.
invited on. And then that helps. Hello, hello. The money manager extraordinaire or money CEO, as I like to call you or refer to you. We're just, I mean, we're all about minimizing the hustle here. And when you get your money down, that is the ultimate minimizing the hustle. I'm sure Jen agrees. But I'd love,
Yes.
Jen, if you just introduce yourself to everyone, tell us about your biz and, how it came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am, as you said, money coach. I work primarily with entrepreneurs. And honestly, it came to be because myself and my husband, we are like serial entrepreneurs. It's a terrible spot, but that's okay. We are absolutely addicted to entrepreneurship. And I'm not even joking when I say between us, we have 6 businesses. 6. Like it's mind blowing how many businesses we have. And, that's not where it ends. Like we've got 2 kids, we've got a very large and anxiety ridden dog, we've got multiple properties, we've got family all around us. Life is very packed in our world. And so, we knew early on that we had to nail down a system, a financial system that was easy and intuitive and didn't take a ton of time because we just didn't have it to give. We're spread in so many different
Yeah.
directions that, we had to be very, very specific about how we handled our money. And that was how I really got into business because, I was realizing that a lot of people struggled with this very thing of how to manage your finances, how to handle it from a business owner perspective, because it's so very, very different from being
100%.
a 9-to-5 worker.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's kind of how I got into building my coaching practice, was just sharing what I knew with other entrepreneurs and helping them put in the systems that have worked so well for us for the last, it's been probably 20 years that we've been doing this, and had a ton of success from it, because we know exactly where we stand all the time. There's never questions. And
Oh,
it's,
and that
yeah,
so freeing. That is so freeing to know where
yes,
you are with money at all times. And I don't think a lot of people do. And I
no,
think it's something that, you probably, well, I'm sure you don't take it for granted, like you said, but a lot of people maybe just struggle with the idea that they could ever know what's going on with their money, but they can.
yeah, yes, yes. And I always like to say, like, I'll make you good with money, whether numbers give you hives or you avoid spreadsheets like the plague. That's totally fine. I actually don't use a ton of spreadsheets. Don't get me wrong, I love them. They make me very happy. But I don't actually use a ton of spreadsheets in what I do because the people who I work with don't like them. They
Mm,
find them scary and
yeah,
intimidating. And
yeah,
so, like, I can make anybody good with money. Like I really can, because it is very simple once you break it down. And once you understand the tools and the techniques and the strategies, it's just a matter of implementing them, and you can see it. You can see exactly where your money's going. And it's sort of like, a junk drawer. Everybody has that junk drawer in their kitchen, right? Like where just crap accumulates. It's like taking the chaos of that junk drawer and then turning it into one of those beautifully organized drawers that we've all been seeing on like all those hormone organization shows, right? It's like doing that with your money. And then suddenly it's like, I know exactly where I am all the time because it's all laid out and I can see it. You don't have to be a financial genius. It's just shown there in black and white.
And so you and your husband have been able to manage it together? Because I know you're probably the boss of it all, but like
I'm not actually
in line.
No,
he knows he has.
No, we're very collaborative, my husband and I. Like in the beginning, like there was definitely, I mean, we've been together for 20 years. So, a lot of our stuff has worked itself out. But, in the beginning, it was definitely a clashing of the titans kind of a situation. But over the years and through trying different things, and that's really where we landed where we did, was because both of us would say, well, let's try this, well, let's try that, and let's, this isn't working, how can we tweak this? And now our financial lives are really, really collaborative. We sit together and we say, okay, like, let's have a look, where are we standing, where are we going, what goals are we shooting towards, what are some of the to-dos that maybe we've let fall by the wayside, what can we work on together? It is a very collaborative environment. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've been so successful, is because we truly are a team.
Yeah. So what are some of these businesses? Let everyone know, like, what are you involved in?
Well, I can't speak for my husband's businesses because honestly, they're all very high tech and I don't understand a thing of what he does. But for myself, so I've got my coaching practice, which is one of them. I also run a gluten-free pierogi business. So my sister and I make gluten-free pierogies, and we are at markets and all of that locally because we're all a family of celiacs and we love pierogies, and the ones that we found on markets were terrible, so we decided to make our own. And once we figure out shipping, you'll be the first phone call I make, I promise. But
cool.
They're a little bit challenging to ship because they're frozen. So that's another one. That's a baby business. It started in December. And then I also run an Airbnb as well, which is again in its infancy. So, you were talking about like knowing where you stand, and literally right before this call, I was going through the finances for our Airbnb, and it's something that I can do in a matter of about 15 or 20 minutes, make sure the bills are all paid. And I was looking, in October and November are statistically really, really low months for that type of a business, especially where we are. This, tourist season over, but, Christmas season hasn't started yet. And I was thinking, okay, yes, it's still in its infancy. We don't really know what we're getting in ourselves into for this year, but looking at the numbers, okay, we've got this sitting here in the emergency fund. We've got this sitting here, for our property taxes. Okay, like even if we don't have a phenomenal month, like we're still going to be totally fine because I've laid it all out. And I'm not even joking when I say it took me no more than like 15 or 20 minutes.
Nice. And so where in the world are you?
I'm in Victoria, BC, which is on the west coast of Canada.
Cool. And then the Airbnb is local.
It is local,
so,
yeah.
Okay, so you could go check it out. You don't have to hire a manager.
We do have a manager because it was a totally brand new ball game for us. We wanted to make sure that like all our I's were dotted, all our T's were crossed. Like we're big believers in like hiring the people who know what they're doing, because I've never run an Airbnb before. I've never been in hospitality. I don't know the ins and outs and what some of the crazy stuff that's going to happen. Like we've already had some crazy stuff happen. We had one guest literally rip our shower diverter out of the wall.
What?
Right, like crazy stuff like that happens. So I'm a big believer in hiring the professionals to support you.
Yeah. I mean, I always have like the horror story idea in my mind about Airbnb, but I always get kind of the dreamy version. A lot of people have a lot of success with it, so I'm sure you will. That might have just been the worst of it.
That's literally the worst that's happened so far. And then we've been we've been in business since I think April or May this year, and 90% of our guests have been just like a dream to have. They're quiet, they are clean, they take wonderful care of the property. Like, it has been a really positive experience, and I'm glad that we've done it. But you know, of course, there's always hiccups, and that's one of the things I always like to remind people in business is I don't know what's going to go wrong. I don't know when it's going to go wrong, but something's going to go wrong. And you know what makes it a lot easier? Money.
Yeah. Having the cash reserves
Yes.
for something like that.
And
yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you're priced to have.
We've got our emergency fund sitting there, and you know, I was a little bit worried. I called our plumber and I said, "Hey, like, we've got this situation. Can you come out and have a look?" And it was actually way less expensive than I thought. The emergency fund more than covered it, even though it's only been building for a couple of short months. It was like, okay, the system works. It saved our butts yet again.
The system works. Works. And so how are you minimizing the hustle? You're a mama of two. So you've got your oldest girl and then a young boy, a young son.
I do.
And so how, as serial entrepreneur, how are you guys minimizing the hustle? What are the systems in place to help with that?
So first of all, making sure we have our professionals in place and hiring the right people to do the jobs that they are amazing at doing. Like, you know, we've got a couple of investment properties, and we have property managers. That is what they do all day, every day, and they're fantastic at it. So, you know, making sure that we've got professionals in place is definitely job one, to minimize our own hustle and also just minimize our stress realistically.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we have in place is our financial systems. Like, it's so funny because when you look at setting it up, it seems like the complete opposite of minimalism. There's actually like multiple different accounts. Like, each one of my businesses has its own separate banking structure. And within that banking structure, there is at least 4 accounts, usually more like 5 or 6. And so setting that up seems like, whoa, that is the complete opposite of minimalism. But it comes back to that analogy of the drawer, right? Like, when you bring in $1 for your business, that whole dollar does not belong to you. It's not like it's when you get paid at a job and you get the dollar and you keep the dollar and you move on with life. That dollar has to go in a bajillion different directions. And so if you leave it in the same account, it's the same as that junk drawer when you're digging around trying to find the tape, you know, and you find 50,000 other things, but you never find the tape. It's sort of like that. And whereas if you portion it all out into what I call a bank account architecture, then it's really quick and easy to know where you stand and to make financial decisions that are actually quality and accurate. So you can just look at your accounts and go, okay, well, you know, in my operating expenses account, I have, you know, $786. Great. I can totally go out and buy this tool for $150. Whereas if it's all in the one account, you're thinking, okay, well, I've got tax season coming up and I haven't paid so-and-so. And, oh, but what about that thing that I wanted? Maybe, I don't know. And it's all muddled up in your head. And it's really, really hard to make a quality financial choice. So having what I call the bank account architecture really clarifies it. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out of making financial choices because it's right there in front of you. And, you know, this is a system that I use. I mean, all of my businesses are hugely different and operate very differently, but they all work under the same, you know, umbrella system where, you know, they've got their architecture. We've got, you know, emergency accounts set up. We've got tax accounts set up. We've got, you know, growth opportunity accounts set up. That's sort of, you know, what I think of like, you know, how we invest in the business. The growth account is for, and how we portion out revenue is different for every business, but it functions very much the same way, no matter what we're doing. And that just makes my life easier. And I go to bed every night and sleep like a baby because I'm not worried that, oh my gosh, you know, that payment's going to come out. It might bounce. I don't know, because it's there. And then the other thing that I do is I have a calendar. So I actually have, so this is one of the freebies that I've got on my website, which is a digital calendar that maps out my finances for the whole month. So I know exactly when that insurance payment is coming out. I know exactly when the mortgage payment is coming out. I know what account it's coming out of because it's all there. And I have to admit, like, sometimes people will look at my calendar and go, holy crap. Because it's very colorful. I'm a big believer in color coding. But, you know, I can just portion out the calendars I'm not needing at that moment. And it's like, okay, I can just look at my money on a calendar and go, okay, make sure that the next 7 to 10 days is covered, done. Again, it's like 5 minutes to just know exactly where I stand. And it
Yeah.
really does, you know, the system really does support me instead of me supporting my money.
Yeah. And I think as we add more to our lives, like Airbnb, new business, new branch of business, maybe you're adding a new product line to your business. It's kind of like, it sounds like we are complicating things, right? Because we're kind of maybe muddling the waters a little bit, but we at the same time are, if we have our systems in place, I do hear minimalism in what you're describing, right? Like we're minimizing the excess worry, the stress, because we've got it, our you're managing your banking architecture. But I love the profit first accounts, and and like having like, oh, I know this money goes to operating expenses, this money goes to kids daycare, or kids needs and things like that, and household needs, and my business whatever bills and things like that. Is that kind of how it looks? The
Exactly. That's exactly what
Yeah.
it is. And, you know, like everybody's going to be a little bit different. Sorry, my AirPod died, so if my audio sounds
Okay.
awful, I'm really sorry. But it really is dependent on your business and how your mind works. So the architecture can support you whether you have 3 accounts or 30. And I've literally seen both. And I've seen both work brilliantly, where someone's just like, oh, I just need to know that all the money is just sitting in the operating expense account and it's just going to go out and pay the bills, blah, blah, blah. That's great. Whereas I've got other people who are like that. They want to see like, okay, this is for my kids. This is for my house. This is for, supplies. Everyone's different. And they really portion it out that specifically because that's what works for them.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, really it's just seeing your money from a perspective of organization rather than chaos and hope.
Yeah. And hope,
Hope is
right? Yeah.
we're talking about our finances. We don't want to just hope it works out. There needs to be a plan and a strategy and a mindset that goes into making that happen.
I agree. And so I love that we agree on that, and we've got kind of this like mind on that. What is a big tip if somebody's just starting their business? What is a big tip for them? What architecture would they put in place to just kind of help them minimize the stress in the money area,
Mm-hmm.
so that they know, like, oh, my first paycheck as an entrepreneur, where does the money go? What would you say?
Absolutely. So if somebody's just starting out, I mean, the first and foremost tip that I always give, especially if somebody's starting out with like a side hustle, it's really tempting just to use your personal accounts to just like, oh, we'll just put the money in there and I'll figure it out later. Please, please, please don't do that. Please, I am begging you, don't do that, because
Don't do that.
it's so much harder to tease it out later than it is to set it up properly in the first place. So what I usually recommend for someone who's brand spanking new is just open up a separate account. It doesn't have to be business account. You don't have to go to your bank and, sit down and fill out all the paperwork and pay all the obnoxious bank fees that come along with like a business account. Just different, separate, away from the accounts that your mortgage comes out of. So set that up first. And then I would say off the top, you can probably get away with a basic like deposit account, so that's where all your money goes into, a tax account because you're going to have to pay them, so you might as well sort it out now, and an emergency account. Like that's pretty basic, because from your deposit account you can use that to kind of pay your expenses once you've siphoned off the taxes in the emergency fund, and then you can pay yourself from that as well. So like it can work really, really well in those early days. Well, you're just trying to figure out business. Like in those early days, you're just trying to figure out how to get revenue in the door. Like, let's be honest here. Getting revenue in the door should be your first priority, because you don't have a business if you don't have revenue. However, you also need somewhere for that revenue to go. So you can't completely ignore it, but you can kind of put a pin in it with just a very basic architecture. And then once you kind of feel like, okay, I've got this, I've figured out my marketing, I've got a great, revenue stream, then you can kind of, okay, now how do I want to get a little bit more strategic with this and start thinking about things like growth opportunities and siphoning out different expenses. Maybe you have like I had one client that was always really scared that their rent was going to bounce. So they literally had one single account where it was just rent. That was all it was.
Okay.
Because
Good.
that's what worked for them, because that was what they needed to get a good sleep at night, was knowing that that rent account had 2 months worth of rent sitting in it, just waiting to be pulled. And, you know, that's something you can do later on in business, like I said, once you've got the revenue part sorted out. But to start with, yeah, those 3 basic accounts will be more than enough, and you'd be laughing.
Yeah. I mean, what is the percentage? Is there kind of like some divide that comes in and you put it in those 3 accounts? What's kind of the rule of thumb in your opinion?
Realistically, it totally depends on the type of business you're in, and it also depends on is this your primary or your side hustle? When we're talking about the tax percentage, you know, that's something I would definitely have a conversation with your accountant about, because it's a very specific, not only based on yourself and your business, but also your geography, like where do you live, who do you pay taxes to, are you, you know, a snowbird who does 2 countries, like that's all very, very dependent. So have a conversation with your accountant. A good rule of thumb, if you're brand new, just starting out, you know, this is your sole source of income, is like 15 to 20% off the top. Just, you know, siphon that off to a tax account so that, and the thing you have to remember with your tax account is that money doesn't belong to you. So it can be really tempting to just like, oop, I'm just going to borrow from it. Oop, I'm just going to borrow from it. But no, that money doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the government. And when we're an employee, we don't see it. Usually the accounting department is the only one who sees those dollars. But when you're a business owner, you see those dollars.
Yeah.
Right? You see it on the pay stub and you cry a little tear, and then you life. But it's never actually in your accounts. Whereas as a business owner, you see those dollars and they are sitting in your accounts. And so, you know, if that's something that you struggle with, then take your tax account and put it at a different bank. Like really, put it at a completely different bank. And, you know, even I've had some clients go to the extreme of turning down online access and saying, I do not want to have access to this account unless I physically come into the bank. Like, do not let me access this money unless I come to you and say it's time to pay my taxes. Because
how do they do that? How does somebody do that? Just not get a debit card or something like that?
If you get a card, you can cut it up. And you know, you can go talk to the bank and they will sort that out for you. You can literally just walk in and talk to a teller. Like if that's all you're looking for is just not having access to it, easy.
Oh.
It's very easy.
Oh, okay. That's a great way, like for savings too.
Like
vacation
out of sight,
fun.
Yeah. Out of sight, out of mind. Do not let me have access to this money unless I walk in the door. So that's something that you can also do. And then for emergency fund, I usually recommend between 3 and 5%, depending on your revenue and also the nature of your business. You know, if emergencies tend to be very expensive in your line of business, like for our Airbnb, then maybe a slightly higher percentage would be more appropriate. But if your emergencies tend to be like, I don't know, your cell phone case cracked or whatever, like then maybe you can dial it back to maybe 3%, but do something. Yeah. Because like I said, something bad's going to happen. I don't know what, I don't know when, but it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and just to probably stay afloat of all the expenses that you start to acquire to run the business.
Yeah.
Your email service provider, your, I'm trying to think what we use.
Your calendar, your Zoom, your Voxer, like they're really sneaky. So, and that's another great one that I've had clients do in the past, is where they will have literally just an account that is there to support their subscriptions. So every time they get a new subscription, they just up their percentage that goes into that account, so that it's as you grow in business, the free versions usually don't apply to you anymore. You can't use them because they're not enough. So like email server is a great example of that, because you know your email server, you know, most of them will say, well, free up to like 2,000 subscribers or something, and then suddenly you hit that and you're like, oh, I have to pay for this now. Oh shoot.
Yeah. Like yeah.
You know, you go to send an email and suddenly this thing pops up that says you are out of free whatevers, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that. I typically have like a credit card on those accounts, and then how I pay them is out of my different accounts.
Yeah.
Just to get some points. But I know some people don't manage their credit cards well, and so I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not a money manager, not a money coach, but I definitely love money mindset training, and I'm all about that. Like, build and grow your money mindset so that you can be a magnet for more and abundance, right? But here at the Minimalist Entrepreneur Company, we're all about minimizing the hustle, especially for entrepreneur moms who have probably the biggest to-do list in the world. Would you agree, Jen?
Yeah. Literally looking at the pile of dishes that needs to be done. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I left a few too to come and chat with you. And hey, that's what we do, right? We find it in our day, but priority focus first. But it was such a pleasure. How do we, besides following Jen Patterson.biz right now for all your money tips, because she's giving them out on her social media account, so definitely follow her. And if you're not following the Minimalist Entrepreneur Co, my account, you'll get tips on mindset and pretty much dreaming big and creating the business to support your dream life. How could we work with you, Jen, and get our money in order, our banking architecture?
Yes, absolutely. So it's actually a perfect time to start following me because at the end of the month, I'm doing a workshop on 7 steps to thrive on a fluctuating income, which I'm really excited about. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to talk about the banking architecture and how to set that up, and it's going to be a fantastic workshop. So there's that. You can sign up on the link in my bio, I believe. I think it's there. If it's not there,
she'll make sure it's there.
So there's that, and then there's also my signature coaching program, the Simple Money Roadmap, where I walk you through step by step, handhold you the whole way through how to set up a banking architecture, how to make it all work, how to allocate your funds, and how to allocate your time so that you're not getting bogged down in the nitty-gritty day-to-day where it's a little bit scary and overwhelming. And that's what I do in 90 days. So we get you from chaos to clarity.
I love that. And I love simple money. And that's my little ding, 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 light bulb went off. Thanks to everyone who joined. If you have any questions, since we're out of time, just DM Jen for all your money questions. And then I like the programs you said, so you might catch me in some of them. But thank you so much for coming on. And if I ever head that way, I'm probably going to look into your Airbnb too.
Absolutely. We would love that.
Cool. All right.
Thank you
Talk to you
so
next
much.
time. Thanks, Jen.